Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to ESCism, your escapism to Eurovision. Now, this channel was supposed to start a few weeks back before the 2024 Eurovision. However, with everything that's been going on with this year's Eurovision, kind of went, you know what, I'll stand away. There's a lot of politics in Eurovision. Starting up a channel about Eurovision isn't the easiest unless you're literally just putting clips and just sharing your own opinion, which is technically sort of what this channel's about, is me talking about what's going on in the world of Eurovision and then discussing about it. I thought I would start this channel, I'll just forget about it and we'll leave it there as an idea. But instead, I've chosen to go ahead with it after Eurovision 2024, and we're just going to talk about the 2024 Eurovision and the kind of mess that was left. Now, the idea of this is for me to have a few notes, and every now and then I will look at my notes and then just talk about it. With what's happened with Eurovision this year, I've kind of got a lot of notes. I have two sides of notes. Now, normally when I do this, I'm expecting just to have maybe a paragraph of notes and talk about it. I want it to be like a discussion between me and you, a discussion. This is kind of actually sort of a rip-off of Zealandism, which is a discussion of just football in general, hosted by Zealand. And I just wanted to do something similar but with Eurovision, because I think we're all civil enough to just have a conversation. Now, because there's a lot to go on about, let's talk about some controversies during Eurovision this year. And here I've got listed number one. The main thing to talk about is the Israeli participation. Now, there was calls for removal online and in person. These protests took part during Eurovision. Quite a lot of discussion, of course, about them. But they also happened during national selections of Norway, Spain, Sweden, and Denmark in particular. These online protests were condemned by the Deputy Director General of the EBU, as well as the Eurovision's executive supervisor, Martin Ostergaard. Israel's performances were met with booing throughout the whole entire contest, which prompted Khan, which is the Israeli broadcast participation, to file complaints to the EBU about it. Now, it is not confirmed, but I think we can insinuate from this that this is most likely what led to the silencing of the Eurovision audience during the contest to avoid booing overshadowing the Israeli performance, and instead fake cheers being implemented. That is being shown over social media. You could find videos of this occurring. There's also been an inquiry by the Portuguese broadcast president, who is wanting clarification on this issue, but we are yet to have heard anything from it. There was also an open letter made by various artists, including Ireland, Norway, Portugal, San Marino, Belgium, the UK, Denmark, Lithuania, and Finland, calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. Now, this is where I've got no notes. This is where I'm just going to talk about this now. So let's discuss Israel's participation. Now, I saw word on the internet that people said Israel should clearly see that they're not wanted to be there, so they should remove themselves. I saw this a lot when I was scrolling through social media. I will say this now, I'm not someone who stares at social media a lot, but I was glued to my screen because, oh my gosh, Eurovision drama. It's a lot to take in, and I wanted to keep up to date. It's my favourite thing in the world, and if there's drama about it, I want to know what's going on. But I actually disagree with this statement, and I know that might be unpopular opinion, but in many cases, you're not going to ever pull yourself out of what's regarded as a fight. If you were a boxer, you're not just going to give up. There is an entity there to tell you when to stop. In this case, this was the EBU. In boxing, it's a referee. And in other cases, there's an official of some sort. The EBU decides who competes. Of course, the broadcaster says, we want to compete. The EBU accepts it, declines it, whatever. Now, the EBU does not really have any set rules on what regards a suspension or ineligibility to participate. There's no clear writing out there, which means that EBU, and to the most fundamental state, the EBU decides against its own rules on if a broadcaster or a representative of a country will lead to breakages of their own rules. That is the only fair way to talk about this. Now, what they should have done is looked at Israel and gone, would Israel's participation undermine the integrity or cause issues with our own rules? And they have decided on that they will not. And that is up to whoever made that decision at EBU, and it's only up to them to make that choice. It's not up to Israel to make that choice for them. Now, this is where I'm going to discuss the EBU structure. How the EBU works is it gets funding from all the broadcasters and even some other ones here and there to exist. Now, this was something that they were most likely very reliant on in the first 50 years, we'll say, maybe a bit less. And then from then onwards, of course, as every corporation and every company wants to do, they want to grow, make more money, and be able to be less dependent on other entities, because you never know if, let's say, a lot of these broadcasters just go, you know what, we don't want this anymore. That is a lot of people out of a job with the EBU. Now, how they've done this is they've relied more on sponsors, of course. There's a load of deals that go around. I know there was TikTok. I know there was a bunch of them, like a bunch of minor, like they've got a sort of deal. I think TikTok was like the official entertainment partner. I could be wrong with that. But the biggest one that is being discussed this year is Moroccan Oil. Now, Moroccan Oil is an Israeli-based company who, as far as we know, and as far as we have seen stated, seems to be a year-by-year deal. It doesn't seem like they've got a long-term deal. They may have got a long-term deal, but every year they seem to announce that they're with Moroccan Oil this year. Again and again and again. They've done that for the previous 4 years, and I imagine that if the Moroccan Oil deal continues, they'll announce it next year. But I believe that is a year-by-year deal, because they've not said, hey, we're working with Moroccan Oil for Eurovision until X date. Now, Moroccan Oil, to be the sponsor for Eurovision, will bring a load of money, and that's understandable. Eurovision has the highest amount of views for a non-sporting event year by year. Now, that is a humongous audience. Now, it's mainly European, but it is also global. So what this could have led to is the EBU worrying about, if we do something with Israeli delegation and do not allow them to be there, maybe Moroccan Oil will go, and maybe that will, for that in the short term, potentially even in the long term, affect the EBU, because they're getting away from just needing these broadcasting fees. They don't need, they're not relying as much on the broadcasters funding them, but they're now more on the sponsorships funding them. And that could have been the issue. And I think the EBU, and I think clear to us all, has seen that this is where they're going, is they're needing these deals to grow bigger year by year. That's why they're partnering with more people year by year. And I think this is just a bad time for all this to happen for the EBU. And they've kind of shot themselves in the foot. And we can go further on here with my next controversy. We will be speaking about Israel again later on, but I think this is a nice little tie-up for the main concern with Israel and the ongoing conflict with the Israel and the Hamas, which is located within the Palestine areas and the Gaza Strip. And we go further on here to the harassment of the Irish delegation. We're going to talk specifically about the Irish delegation first. Of course, there's more harassment that we will be talking about in a minute. And that is that Bambi Fugg, the Irish entry, was asked to remove ancient script which was written on their body, which read "Ceasefire and Freedom for Palestine." Now, as I hate to say this, that goes with the rules. They were asked to remove this language, which could be seen as political. And it's unfortunate that it is a political thing. I think a lot of things are political in general. And if you're the EBU, you're trying to enforce this rule. And they've kind of come to the terms that that does break the rule and they're enforcing it. I hate to say that was the case. I would rather that it didn't need removing, because in my opinion it's an ancient script that yes does have a meaning, but because it's such an ancient script that nobody actually understands it unless they dig further into it. But EBU believed they broke rules, therefore they enforced it. And this is where we're going to be talking about this rule break. We'll be talking about again later regarding something else, but specifically on this, I just want to talk about that now. There was also complaints made about members of the Israel fan clubs for harassment against the Irish delegation at the Euroclub nightclub. We do not know what that led to at all. We know that some of them were associated with the EBU in some form, but we don't know what has happened to them. There's not been an official statement on the matter. There's also been complaints made by the Irish delegation to the EBU about the Can broadcaster, which is again the Irish broadcaster of Eurovision. Not Irish, sorry, the Israeli broadcaster of the competition. And as well as the Israeli delegation for inclining violence 2 to 3 times, and the Irish entry, Bambi Fugg, stated that they did nothing. Now, this is where we go back to the earlier thing about rule breaks. If a member has been told that they've broken the rules, they are going to also make sure, well, if I've broken the rules, I'm going to make sure everyone else follows the rules. If I told you, you've broken a rule, you're going to go like, if you believe you didn't break a rule, you're going to go, oh, if I've broken a rule, I'm going to make sure that nobody else breaks a rule, you know, the hands crossed like that. If Bambi Fugg believes that earlier with the script shouldn't have broken the rules, they're going to make sure that, okay, every rule is going to then be made sure to be enforced. If they do not feel like they're enforced, there's going to be a fallout between people representing Bambi Fugg as well as towards the EBU. Now, we understand, and I think we all know, that there is a falling out between the Irish delegation in some sort with the EBU, because that interview was taken after Eurovision ended, where Bambi Fugg mentioned that they believed that the Can, again, the Israel broadcaster, and the Israeli delegation broke the rules by inciting violence against them. We saw one of them during the semi-finals where they believed that they were sending curses, I think was the terminology used by the Israeli commentators during the semi-finals, towards Bambi Fugg. Now, we don't know what EBU have said on this. And this comes to where in the past, I'll talk about me for a second here. I've worked on esports events and I've worked on production. This to me sounds like whoever Bambi Thug spoke to didn't give a clear reason why there was no punishment held towards the Israeli delegation. And it also speaks volumes of how the EBU sort of deals with complaints. It's all kind of kept quiet. There's no, we've heard about this and we're investigating this. There's nowhere we can go to go, we know there's been an incident, we're going to update people on the incident and what's going on. That quietness is also another issue that we're going to go back into later with another thing, which actually helps spread a lot of misinformation. And we're going to go into that now, because I don't think there's a lot more we can talk about with the issues between the Irish delegation and the Israeli delegation. To me, that is going to be probably a behind the scenes issue, which the EBU and probably the Irish delegation I'm going to talk about for a long time. Finally, on the second side of the page. So further on the inconsistent with rules, we are now talking about the Dutch entry. Now, the Dutch entry was disqualified from the finals after qualifying from, I believe, semi-final 2. I could be wrong. It might be in 1. No, I think it was 2. I think I remember watching that on the Thursday. Could be wrong on that. But there was an issue with Juiced after apparently there's an incident between them and a female employee from the production team. Now, the way that the EBU spoke about this issue seemed like there was a very bad claim between, not very bad claim, but I guess a very what would be the word I'm looking for? A very serious incident between these two. Because they kind of left it too vague and too open for interpretation. This led to people online who haven't got a positive look on Used of sending messages saying this is what Used did, this is what the EBU is saying, and making horrendous claims. Whereas people were defending the Dutch entry as well, stating that a different things are happening where apparently the belief was that the Israeli delegation was bullying Juiced. We saw video footage of this happening, but apparently there was an incident which we haven't got any footage of, so we don't know if it's true, of apparently the Israeli delegation telling Juiced, making jokes of their dead father, but we didn't see that and we do not know if that's confirmed true, so I do not believe that's actually something that might have happened. We then go to the Dutch broadcaster, feels like it was unfairly disproportionate of what was actually happened that took place. So the Dutch broadcaster stated that there was no physical contact between the two. Now, if this is the case, this makes the EBU statement look a lot worse and too disingenuous of what actually happened. It also makes everything before it, all that speech on both sides of people who are looking positive to Juiced and unpositive to Juiced, just look mental and batshit crazy. And this is all because the EBU couldn't clarify on their statement. I understand that this went to the Swedish Police Authority, I believe was the name of them, and let them do the investigation. I assume that the Swedish police was also in discussions with the EBU over what to do, because sometimes that is the case, that some police will go, this is our current belief of what happened, or something along those lines, and then guided the EBU into what they believe should happen. Now, the EBU decided to disqualify the Dutch entry between the semi-finals and the finals. This led to a lot of people being angry, saying that he was basically charged of being guilty before being put on trial. Basically being proven guilty even though he's innocent, or before he was proven guilty, sorry. And it's led to a lot of people really wanting Jews back into the competition. It's a bit ironic that it was reported that Israeli journalists and the delegations were intimidating him. Not just the Dutch act, but apparently there was also reports of press and other acts also being intimidated by the Israeli delegation. And it seemed like nothing had occurred to them. Now, this could have been due to the earlier talks about the Moroccan oil, potentially. We don't know. But, and this is the only section here where I'm going to talk about why I think the Israeli delegation and journalists were trying to be intimidating. I think that the Israeli delegation and journalists felt like they needed to make their presence known because they felt like there was a lot of negativity towards them, and when we're powerful and we're strong, and they wanted to show that to them, and saying that we're not going to be a pushover about the current issues and concerns. I believe that it was all on purpose to try and give that aura. I also believe that this was they were hoping to get justified from this by having them win the competition. I think the Israeli delegation knew that they was going to get a lot of televotes, and that the jury votes would not be bad enough to make them not win. We've seen in the past where televotes absolutely dominate a victory, and we've seen in the past where jury votes dominate victory. I think the Israeli delegation and Israel in general thought it was going to win the viewer votes by a large margin, and they wanted to say we're strong, powerful. They're not wanting to be saying they were intimidating, but they were wanting to say that they were strong and powerful, and we're being justified by this attitude by winning the competition. This then leads to another thing that I'm going to actually show you. We're not going to watch the thing, but I will skip through it because there is English subtitles to this. And that is this person right here. This here is Daniel Owens. He was a member of the Norwegian jury. And what we're going to show here and discuss about is it is going to kind of tie it all up. So we're not going to play it, but what we are going to do is skip through it. Over the past few hours, there's been a flood of messages and comments regarding the Norwegian jury's allocation of 8 points to Israel during Eurovision. This came as much of a surprise to me as it did to you. Each jury member votes individually, without the possibility of discussing how many points to allocate to each country. To avoid mutual influence and ensuring fair judgment, therefore, it is important for me to clarify that I was not involved in the allocation of points to Israel. Before the broadcast, the jury showed an introduction video emphasising the following principles. You must not favour or discriminate against any participant based on nationality, gender, suitability, political views, or any other reason other than the song and performance. Do not let political views affect how you evaluate a song and/or an artist. Given the current situation, it is impossible for me to overlook this. What is happening in Palestine is heartbreaking, and I cannot in any way support Israel's actions. In my opinion, Israel should not have been allowed to participate in Eurovision at all. Eurovision promotes the motto, united by music, but when the party is over and the music stops, the situation remains unchanged. Although I was not involved in the allocation of points to Israel, I still want to apologise for being shown from the Norwegian jury. My heart and all my support go out to Palestine. Free Palestine. Now, this right here means that this whole competition is undermined, because not only are we saying that Israel might undermine the whole competition earlier on, we're now saying that this has also affected at least one jury member. Now, when your competition integrity is compromised, this has a lot of issues, because then it goes into, well, has any other competition been politically compromised against your rules? And this is where a lot of questions get asked by broadcasters. Now, I am going to quickly go away from Eurovision. This has happened in F1 with Mercedes when the Lewis Hamilton got overtaken by Max Verstappen on that last lap. Can't remember the incident. It was in Abu Dhabi. But the rules was technically not followed to allow for that to happen. And it led to Mercedes being very unhappy. Going back to Eurovision, this will lead to other people being unhappy. Mainly here, probably the Israeli delegation going, who else was influenced by this? Could we have gotten more points from the jury if more people followed this? We need to go through everyone. We need to see who was compromised and then redo the results. They could make that argument. I do not think that will happen, because I do not think redoing the whole voting is something that EBU wants to do, and I don't think it's a thing that anyone think would be fair. I believe that, okay, if there was like, oh, this country's disqualified, so we're going to just make sure that they do not get any points and reallocate them, that is a possibility, but I do not think redoing the whole voting system is on the cards. Daniel Owen in this statement has undermined the competition, unfortunately. I think that the jury member, and I had the belief that jury members would probably try to not let the Israel situation get to them, and they would vote fairly. I felt like when I saw the results in the night that it was followed fairly, because I was like, yeah, I can see why those songs are at the top, I can see why those songs are at the bottom, I can see why those songs are in the middle. I didn't feel like it was an outlier. It's actually one of the first times where I felt there wasn't an outlier in the jury vote. Now, sure, there might have been some popular songs in the middle, but I do not think juries would enjoy that song. Now, I think that was more of a televote song. Now, there's that discussion of who else was compromised. That will probably be something that EBU will look into. This is probably something that broadcasters are going to look into. And the reason why I'm bringing up broadcasters is because, just shying away from the rest of the controversies, that is going to be the last controversy we're going to talk about today without having this video be too long. There are currently, for Eurovision 2025, 5 countries on the provisional list. Now, in previous years, we would normally have at least double to triple that by now. The day after Eurovision, we would hear about 15 countries, definitely, maybe 12 to 15, I think, is like round about the right amount of countries to have confirmed their participation. Now, this is a provisional list, which means that some of these countries I'm going to name might not be participating in Eurovision 2025, or they will be the only 5. Of course, Eurovision will probably have more than 5 people. Now, going through them, Belgium is one of them by announcing Eurosong 2025 and that leading to the representative for Eurovision 2025. Denmark has announced the Melody Grand Prix, which again will lead to the Eurovision entry for 2025 in Denmark. Luxembourg has had an announcement by the president of their broadcaster stating that they'll be doing Eurovision 2025. Malta again, but via the broadcaster stating that. As well as Spain via announcing the Benidorm Fest 2025. Also that leading to the Eurovision 2025 entry for Spain. You may have noticed that I have not said a country. I have not said Switzerland. Switzerland, the broadcaster, has yet to officially announce that they're hosting, not hosting Eurovision, but actually being in the competition. Switzerland have yet to announce that, which is mental. Now, you might have heard about Switzerland cities and mayors going, oh, we want to host the Eurovision, but the broadcaster themselves has not said they're in Eurovision. This is very unlikely to stay that way. I think Switzerland will be in the competition, but they have yet to announce anything. And usually the host is the first person to announce something unless they've announced it prior. For example, Belgium actually announced that they're doing Eurosong 2025, I think on the 8th of May, which was before the grand final. Now, you might be like, okay, what can confirm the host country participating? Normally it's an announcement of their competition, or something along that's basically normally it. They normally announce we'll be hosting Eurovision 2025. We're going to do our national selection. I can't remember if Switzerland has a national selection, which might be why there's been no major announcement yet. But we also know that there's no paper handover from Martin Odegaard in the winners' press conference. Normally, Martin Odegaard comes in with the paper, hands it to a representative of the Swiss broadcasting company, and they did not do that. So, as much as Switzerland haven't yet announced, Switzerland will most likely announce. I think this actually shows current issues. Again, the Portuguese delegation, we know, have publicly said they are inquiring to EBU about a bunch of stuff. I will highly doubt they're the only ones. We know that BBC had some issues that they talked about. The Irish broadcaster also had issues that they discussed. With the Swiss one, we also know had issues, but we didn't get a full understanding of what those issues were. The Dutch broadcasting company definitely had issues because their whole budget that went to Eurovision has technically gone down the drain because they didn't even get to compete in the final. So they're going to have their own things to say, and there's going to be a lot of talks. And I think in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to get bits of news about Eurovision constantly. And I'm hoping that you stay here and I will upload videos about them. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this first ESCism. It was not the first topic I would have liked to talk about ever, but I hope you stay here for the next one, and it'll definitely be a much shorter video and hopefully a lot more cheerful one. Anyways, see you all next time.